Happy Saturday. Going live now on multiple channels, my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and today is day 6 of 30-day live, and I am here to talk to you guys about how to manage taxes as a creator. So first of all, I'm not a trained attorney, accountant, so I'm not an expert, but what I'm trying to do here is to basically start the conversation, because I think often what's missing is for us to actually talk about this openly, and especially for people who don't have the ability to find an accountant or to be able to afford one or even know where to start or have a referral. I think it's so much healthier to start talking about taxes, how we should manage money, how to start building some of the best practices. And hey, Yanni, good to see you here. So that's what we're here for. And for years since I started my freelance business and now working as a part-time YouTuber, I would say about 40% of my revenue comes in from YouTube and then 60% from my regular consulting side of the business. I have multiple clients in different industries. And recently, as of a year ago, I also bought a house. And what complicates that is now a part of my home really serves the business. So, for instance, right now I'm live streaming from my home office. And right before this, in case you haven't noticed, you probably haven't noticed if you're on Instagram, but if you're watching it from everywhere else, YouTube, LinkedIn, you notice that my camera angle changed because I literally just got this Logitech Brio shipped, which is a brand new webcam. I'm using it for the first time. It is a 4K camera, 4K webcam. Everybody raves about it. So I figure it's finally time to upgrade. And that actually is all connected to taxes, money management as a creator. And here is why. Given that I'm using my home office right here, pretty much every inch of it, as you can see, I'm able to deduct part of my house expenses, as well as, electricity bills, water bills. There's certain expenses, certainly Wi-Fi, as part of my business. And that is very helpful, even though you don't think it's necessarily a lot at the beginning. Also, I'm currently building a basement, and a big part of that basement is really trying to create this additional space for me to be able to create content. And the reason is pretty simple. As a content creator, it's an idea. I mean, it sounds good to be able to create, just run around the house trying to create content everywhere, but it's not always convenient. For example, I'm not a chef. I don't cook on my YouTube shows, so therefore I'm unable to really claim any expenses that occurs, for instance, in the kitchen or maybe part of the living room where I shoot videos from. So to understand what your leverage is actually very helpful. And I will also talk about some of the best practices. So I wrote this article, I think in 2019, alongside of DIY, how to incorporate your company. If you guys are interested, please let me know. Drop me questions so I can read them and answer them live right here. And oh, Malcolm is right here. Hello, hello. First question, and what a great question. This is like the most common one. I really should have started here. So thank you for reminding me. Are you an LLC? And when did you change from a sole proprietor to LLC? What a great question. The good news is everything we're talking about here still is applicable, even if you are working on your own independent sole proprietor. But it certainly is applicable if you have an LLC, S Corp, C Corp. For me, I have an LLC, something very specific. It's called the Single Person LLC, which means I'm exactly as it sounds. I'm the only person. So it's really helpful. And Malcolm, I want to also answer why I decided to do that. The distinction is actually maybe not as clear from a tax perspective, but as an LLC, I'm able to protect all my business assets. So in the rare cases where if somebody's trying to sue you, start a lawsuit, all your personal assets are protected. I know I'm kind of like treading over to the attorney category. I know I shouldn't be speaking too much about that, but that is, to me, a huge distinction. Your personal assets will be protected from the lawsuits. What does that mean? Your house, your personal belongings, your assets. If you're into paintings, or like all these like film equipment, whatever it is, your house, your cars, those are protected. Also, if I may elaborate a little bit more, because I have been working with an accountant since 2017. I started my business in 2016, and the first year as you guys know, I'm very DIY. I want to just learn everything on my own. And so I didn't hire an accountant. And that was something that I learned the lesson the hard way. I had an S Corp because I had other friends who had S Corp. It sounded big, grand, and like sexier or whatever. Out of convenience, I started an S Corp. Then, when filing taxes as an S Corp, you have to file two different forms, two different taxes. One is called personal, the other is for your corporation. But as a single person LLC, now I only need to file one tax return. If you're watching this and if you happen to be living in Massachusetts, please, if you need a referral to work with an amazing accountant, I can certainly refer you to someone I know. Drop me an email, message, comments below, or if you prefer, hello@feisworld.com, Feisworld. It makes a huge difference. I want to quickly comment on that. For me to be able to switch from S Corp to LLC, it took more paperwork. It was manageable, but I really wish I kind of started from the very beginning. As a content entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur in general, your second year most likely is going to be much busier in the first year. So that is kind of at the crossroad of like you thinking, I'd much rather trying to get it done. Also, whenever you either establish your corporation or when you change basically the type of your corporation, you have to file everything and there's an additional fee. So when you make that mistake, my accountant was super nice and he reminded me to do that at the end of the year. Because instead of doing, let's say in July or August timeframe, it just made sense for me to have just take care of everything, make any changes I needed in December. Hello, guys. I mean, that's the month that we're in right now. I mean, yesterday I was going live about health insurance. I mean, open enrollment is happening right now. So November, December, given it's holiday season, guys, you got to pay attention and take actions. Write down a sticky notes, whatever you need to do, get stuff done right now. If you're thinking about starting your own company, if you've been convinced by this live stream or any other video to realize you want to protect your personal assets, starting your LLC, you want to do it right now so that it's active and you're good to go January 1st. So that was a long-winded answer, but I really want to get into the taxes side of things. And one more thing to mention, Malcolm, for anybody else who's watching here, that because with single person LLC, that's a lot of us are basically where we're starting from. You save a lot of money on tax return, even if you work with an accountant, depending on where you are in the States or in the country or in the world. It differs, but the fewer you have to, less stuff you have to do, the cheaper it is. So the first year when I had to file as an S Corp, years ago, it was $1,500. And the next year, when I learned more, it was actually $750, half as much for a single person LLC. It's not just the money, it's just all the paperwork, all that information I had to gather then, and now it's just a lot less. So with that said, let's get into, I think it's really cool to be able to talk about taxes, actually. So I'm going to just share an article real quick, and looks like I have to kind of scroll around right here. So I did just touch base on whether you need an accountant or not. You do, actually. I think the first couple of years is very, very helpful. And if your taxes is super simple, if you're single, no family, no kids, and it's just you and you have like one or two consulting clients, perhaps you could use just simply the 1040 easy if you're sole proprietor. But once you have an LLC as corp for the first year, I highly recommend you do. And take it this way, like nobody wants to pay anybody else to file taxes if they feel like they can do everything easily on their own. But with the initial learning, what I told myself was it's an opportunity for me to learn. So that's exactly what I did. I asked a ton of questions to my accountant. I took notes carefully. I even just packaged everything. And I shared so much of this information you're reading now from what I learned from my accountant. So in a way that I know that not everybody is as privileged to be able to work with somebody else, especially at the beginning. And that's why I'm sharing all of these live streams. Let's talk about the legal stuff real quick. Anybody you pay to help with your business, of course, people you hire, first of all, contractors, people who help you maybe edit videos, help with social media, virtual assistants, all that is deductible. Okay, it's super simple. If you get paid $10,000 and if you pay either $1,000 or $5,000 to hire someone else to do that work for you to deliver the final deliverable, then immediately the taxable portion of your income is that 10 grand minus whatever you have to pay to a contractor. But there is more. If you hire an accountant, if you pay for all these incorporation fees, whether it's LLC, S corp, or whatever that is, um, fees charged by the state, by at the federal level, whatever that may mean, paperwork, you can deduct that right away. And if you work with an attorney, if you were to ask me at the beginning, I was trying to be really careful. So I crafted my Feisworld LLC, all these, what do you call it, SOW, statement of work, and NDA, all those things. I hire someone really kind to do it. Again, I'm happy to refer her to anybody here who's interested. And that was helpful. Not only she was able to just produce documents, just like throw it over to me, I was able to ask questions. I was able to make modifications. But the point of today's live stream is that her fee, everything that I paid to her, was also deductible. So whatever, let's say 10 grand minus the contractors, minus accountant fees, minus legal fees. And here's something else. As you can see on the screen right here, you also have advertising and marketing. If you're running ads on Facebook, Google ads, etc., even in newspapers, or, traditional marketing, that's deductible. Office supplies. And that is something we don't think about, right? Like when you work at an office space, you go to the supply room, you grab your pen, your paper, your sticky notes, your markers, your highlighters. They cost money, I'm sure you know, but as running an office is not always cheap, especially the first year. You invest in all these equipments and they have to be paid for. So it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Office supplies and computer equipment and software. So computer equipments for me, lighting, as you can see here, I have Elgato lights, something that I only invested this year. These lights are not like over the top expensive, but it was still an investment. At the beginning, I had these like $100 lights. I had a set of them, but these Elgato lights are just so much better. They're about $150 a piece. I have two of them here. And I have my green backdrop behind me on the ground that I'm not using right now. So new desks, I'm using a standing desk. I have a microphone. I have a mic pop filter. I have a boom arm. The list goes on. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, I just got this new Logitech Brio, which is a 4K camera. One more thing, one more thing. This is a big, big deal. So today I was going to do a unboxing right here. Maybe I should, but it's going to be a little bit messy. I finally decided to invest in an iPhone. And for me, this is also a deductible expense. The reason is I have a phone. I don't really need it. But the reason is this new camera is going to be great. Also, I'm going to start traveling for some, when I say photo shoots and video shoots, it's more like interviewing people, going to these shows, maybe in downtown Boston area. And I need to be able to travel with a much more reliable phone, which my current phone is not and has not been for a bunch of months. And because now is at the end of the year, I have a better grasp of where I am in terms of my income, my expenses. I have to really measure and to see if it makes sense for me to do this right now. Keep in mind, guys, speaking of which, you do want to set aside 25 to 30% of your income for taxes. You have to build that habit right into your entrepreneurial journey right away. Let's move on to talk about software. For me, in the link, as one of the links in the description below, I have something called my Software Essential Toolkit. And I try to list as few as possible for content creators to kind of start picking up things like ConvertKit, things like Podia, where I host my courses, and things like, I'm still using Microsoft Office for some of my clients, even though majority of my work is absolutely done using Google Drive. Speaking of which, I do have the Google Workspace. I forgot they changed their name, but it's the business version of Google Drive. That's something I've needed for many years. So again, all of these are deductible. It's really important for you to look at your credit card statements, take your time, use a highlighter to figure out the ones that are absolutely related to your business expenses. I think the most important part, frankly, hello, Roman, good to see you. Speaking of content creators, very powerful one. Roman is part of, Cirque du Soleil. So a very powerful creator here. Hello. Is that one practice everybody has to adopt right away as a creator is that you want to have a separate bank account
and credit card. If you remember nothing else from this live stream, trust me, I'm going to repeat myself. You want to separate your personal expenses away from your business expenses. For me, I have a separate business account, checking account, as well as a separate business credit card. So the benefit of a credit card, I guess, in a way, is if you use the right one, you select the right one, then you can have some, you can build points, you can protect your assets to a certain degree. Placing a major product on a credit card, it doesn't work, it breaks, things like that. And for me, years ago, I paid close to $7,000 to work with a film distributor, and they went bankrupt. I was able to get all that money back right away. Like I didn't have to make an argument. The credit card, which at the time was Chase Reserve, they filed everything for me. It was super convenient. So that's very important. I know I went off topic a little bit. Travel, the next thing on the list here is travel and business meals. It's something a lot of us haven't really thought about for a little while due to the pandemic. But as you begin to travel, I know a lot of my business friends are, to New York, everywhere. It's important to know that your travel expenses, your plane tickets, your business meals, which means not by yourself, but when you're eating with a client, the rules are changing, but it's important. And when I say the rules, that means like the deductible percentage is changing. When I started my business, it was 50%. And then it went down to something. Oh no, when I started was 70%. I think it was then 50%. You don't have to worry about the percentage as much, because if you're like me using a tax software such as, Tax Act or Tax Online, then it's going to calculate all of that for you. But it's important for you to be able to separate the expenses to begin with. And also renting for a co-working space. And oh, there's a typo right there. Um, it's kind of not a popular thing these days, but I still know some of my friends who would prefer to work somewhere else. I exclusively work from my home office, but if you do rent place, you do pay for a fee, a subscription to work elsewhere. That's also deductible. Utilities, this one gets a little bit tricky, as I mentioned at the beginning, because if you live in a house, let's say 3,000 square feet, and your office is, say, 500 square feet, you're unable to deduct everything from the house, but only a percentage of it, depending on how much of your home you're utilizing as work. So, yeah, so any questions so far? Please let me know. There are absolutely no bad questions. I really wish we're able to like talk about taxes and money, personal finance more as creators, because what pains me is for years I found out a lot of my friends in my position as creators to, take their clients out for tea, coffee, maybe a meal. It might not even appear to be all that much for you, maybe coffee for $5. You're buying your prospects, not even your current clients, but you're buying a prospect, someone who has a potential of doing business with you. You spend $15, $20. I know when you start, you're poor, right? You're taking them to Panera Bread as opposed to legal seafood. But you still have to pay for all these things. You are your own marketing team. That is deductible. I have seen time and time again that people just pull out whatever credit card they had handy and say, whatever, I'll just put on my personal card. That's going to be messy, and you're not taking advantage of your this tax incentives for creators. Because if you work full time, sometimes it's a little harder to adjust to that, or to like to be able to manage that. But when you're working as a full-time freelancer, you really got to pay attention to all these details. um, Next section, I talk about like credit card perks for business expenses. I don't want to generalize everything too much, because I think we all have very different behaviors really about how we spend our money, what we tend to buy, the nature of our business. If you're not a video creator, you're not going to probably spend a ton of money on microphones and lights, which in the case I do. So for me, my current credit card choice is I really like doing business with Capital One. And I'm not a huge fan of Bank of America. I do have their cards just because when I travel, especially within, domestically, it's convenient to have those ATMs everywhere. So think about your spending behaviors, think about your travel pattern, and you can go to places like Nerd Wallets or, creditcards.com and just find one. Take your time and find one that's right for you. And remember that you can always cancel, you can always upgrade and like get a different card the next year. So next I want to talk about quarterly taxes briefly. This is something that you don't really think about when you work full time, because everything is already deducted. Your social security taxes and all that, personal, all your taxes are already taken out by the time you get your paycheck. It's not the case when you run your own business. So you have to remember to, number one, separate your business personal expenses, then set aside. This is not me recommending this, but in general, people recommend that you set aside 25 to 30% of every paycheck into a separate savings account. And remember that you are responsible. This data may be a little bit outdated, but 15.3% of self-employment tax when you freelance. The number changes like from every year by a little bit. Sometimes it stays the same, but it's usually never drastically different than what it was the previous year. And in terms of tax software, so the truth is, do you still need to use the tax software when you work with an accountant? I still did, frankly, because I was getting all the paper and I still want to just kind of run through everything. I also had QuickBooks, but it's much easier. Like you're literally just plug and play, and you don't have to. And you don't need to have one of the higher end tax software. Every year I pay for the Self-Employed Plus from this company, Tax Act. And one thing I guess is beneficial when you stick to the same tax software is when you log in the next year, you're able to kind of pull all the previous year information. So you don't have to fill out like address and things like that. Only when things change, like the nature of your business changes. So yeah, that's it. I think that's a lot to say about taxes. And if any one of you is like me, kind of building your basement, or you're renovating your office and things like that, there are specific rules around it. You're unable to deduct everything, like everything that you spend into building that basement. I'm going to use basements as an example, but you're able to deduct, I think, flooring, paint, parts of the wall. I mean, there's a very specific list. That's a great idea to, again, make sure you look on IRS. Maybe you work with an accountant. The reason I think that why you want to work with a professional is, simply, is to simply understand and trying to learn more, and instead of assuming it. People get paid for a reason. These professionals get paid because they stay on top of, everything as much as they, that's what you're paying them for. It's not necessarily just their time, but their expertise, their license. Yeah, Carla, you use QuickBooks Online. You absolutely love it. Absolutely. I think it's a really good idea to be able to find the software you like. And isn't it great to be able to access the same information, to see the pattern? And my goodness, I love when people kind of come in and Carlos Perez, you guys are talking about me. This is great. I want to give a shout out to House of Content. Absolutely. Like they have such wonderful, what a great production team, because as a content creator, I've been talking to clients thinking about working with you guys as well, Shaish. And it's incredible. That's one thing. I mean, taxes aside, guys, one thing I want to kind of leave a message to all the content creators out there is like, we got to stay connected. We have to be able to recommend each other. And before we do that, it's not just, throwing some names, some links. I mean, that helps to a certain degree, but especially if you have worked with people in the past and you trust them, you enjoy working with them, trying to stay in touch, learn more about their business, and be able to really connect people the right way. I think we're truly in this relationship and connections economy, and I wish we do more of it. So yeah, all right. So I think I hope that's helpful to you guys. And once again, write to me, hello@feisworld.com, if you want to learn more, maybe about referrals or working with attorneys, accountants. I'm not any one of them, but I'm able to kind of maybe point you the right way. And in terms of incorporations, I have an article on Feisworld.com. If you just search for Feisworld DIY Corporation, you're going to find this article. As funny as it sounds, I worked with my friend Von Lee. He was at a playground. We talked for 5 minutes, and he had little kids at the time. And he was able to basically send me and point me to say, Google this, that, like 3 links. I was able to set up my LLC within 3 days. And then I think a week altogether, just waiting for the paperwork to be approved. And that was super simple. So all the things you didn't think you could do, even get started learning, just like, I don't want to think about any of this stuff. It changes as a creator. And trust me, it makes you more powerful, more resourceful when you choose to learn. And speaking of learning, earlier today, I'm actually feeling really good right now. I wasn't an hour ago when I discovered there was a mice situation inside my house. I had to hire a professional to treat everything, to diagnose it, and to quote me for it, and to quote for the services. Sorry, and I was just feeling really overwhelmed. But then I went back to my notes and realized that now I am more resourceful. I know how to prevent the situation moving forward. I know who to call. So there are just a lot of things that you can learn from multiple sources. And I want this live stream series to be very conversational, because I don't think any one of us should ever feel so intimidated that we're not capable. We shouldn't be doing this. We cannot possibly learn this. So love for this community, and I will see you tomorrow. The link in the description below if you want to get ready for what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And frankly, I'm not even sure what I'm doing for tomorrow. So I'm going to find out. Let me do that real quick. So today is day 6 on taxes. Tomorrow is going to be cool. If you are a creator and you're overwhelmed, self-care is essential during this holiday season. All right. Yeah. All right. Cool. Carl. So sorry. Did I call you Carla? So Carl, perfect. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you later. And day 7 tomorrow is about how to hire for help, virtual assistants, VAs, content editors, social media managers. I want to talk to you guys about that. I'm going to give away the job descriptions, how to hire, but also the mindset of why you need to hire someone, how you go about it, the sites that are available, how you approach this situation so that you can get most out of the person who are helping you out. Because the last thing you want to do is hire someone without giving them enough instructions, and they're just going to be idling. So that's it. All right, I'm going to stop rambling now. So much of, I feel like what I'm learning here as part of the 30-day live, it's truly about what Seth Godin, what everybody talks about, the showing up part. There's so many excuses. There's so many reasons why you might want to show up, but help one more person. I'm so glad I saw a number of familiar faces today, and I'll see you tomorrow to talk about getting help for yourself, for your business. And that's it. Much love.